covering off. Or wanted to leave it on, just checking temperature.
Well, you know, BA2 is coming back. And we have Deltacron after that. Really?
Really?
Really.
Oh my gosh.
We have 2 more waves in the pipeline. This is probably our 1 week to do it before we get round 2 again, but
Well, it's just whatever you're comfortable with. If you'd prefer masking, that's great.
I hate it, but I prefer it, you know how
Well,
that is.
then we'll do that. Yes. Thank you for saying something. I'm trying to do my double. There we go. There we go. Okay, are we ready? Welcome everybody to meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Grand Marais Public Library on Thursday, March 24th at 5:05 p.m. We are currently missing Sarah McManus and Michael Gary, but they may be joining us just a little late. We do have a quorum, and we don't have any visitors, so we can just go around and say our names, and then we'll move on to the consent agenda. So, Commissioner Dave Mills.
Kevin Lavore.
Sue McClone.
Enno Limvier.
Kristen Wazeski is here, and I am Amanda St. John, Library Director.
Thank you. And so on the consent agenda, we have our agenda, the minutes from our February meeting, and then the bills. Any questions, concerns about anything on the consent agenda? And if not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to accept.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then for our ALS liaison report, Helen is not here. Did I miss? Oh, here it is. Okay, I did miss it. Her report, which is on our, oh, I'm sorry, no, that's,
No, there's no, we were expecting her to be here today.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just looking at the minutes. I got confused. Well, if she comes in, then we will, we'll just make room for her. That moves us on to the library director's report. Amanda.
Sure. So I just want to start with a little conversation about Google Drive and accessing the board content, because I didn't put a link directly in the email, and a few people couldn't get in. When I first arrived at the library in 2017, all of our board materials were photocopied and handed out, and it felt really important to the board at that time to move to a digital platform, and they chose Google Drive. If it's problematic using Google Drive in general, I can create something that attaches directly to the email. I don't know if you guys prefer that, or if you're okay, and I'll just keep aiming to put the link in there.
I'm okay with Google Drive, just learning curve,
Yeah?
but using it in other places now too, so
Okay.
becoming more familiar.
I'm fine.
You good, you good?
Yeah, once they get there, I'm okay.
Okay, okay, perfect. We had a drip with the faucet in the staff lunchroom for quite some time, and we're trying to flush sediment and see if that worked, but it didn't. We replaced it, and it's gorgeous and working now. I think this has been my favorite building issue over the last few months. I felt very good picking the new hardware. And just a short update about the strategic plan, about launching a new strategic plan cycle. I have reached out to 2 consultants, just heard back from one, and also have some content from Fast Forward Libraries. Amanda Standifer is the owner and operator of that company. They operate out of Illinois. They're very highly recommended, and pretty broadly used. I just found out that one of their last libraries they worked with was Idaho Commission for Libraries, and my prior boss works there, so we felt very close-knit. This consultant offers, her recommendation would be that we do a 3-year plan. If she did all of the work for us, it would be about $19,000 for her contributions. She also has packages that would allow me to sort of pick and choose what she's gonna do or what I'm gonna do. If I did all of what she's proposing for a strategic plan and used her support, it would be about $8,000. I'm excited to have a consultant in the wing. I think if we're still looking closer to a 2-year plan, I actually think that city staff and I can do a decent job, and I'd like to proceed that way.
As opposed to bringing in a consultant?
Mm-hmm. So I guess, like, how big? How big and bold? How much support do we want for the plan? And are we still feeling good about a 2-year plan?
I would say, for me, it's what is your energy level of, if we're still going to have 2 more waves, we want to wait till afterwards and you're still kind of running all over, then it may be simpler to do something short term, but if you're ready, but if you're like, okay, this is, I have some energy and I have some drive and I want to take a leap. So then that's leap and bring in the consultant, and so I guess that's my question or my thought on it.
Any thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with 2 years. I think, right now, I think 3 years is almost too many, too far out.
Is that where you're at too? Sam?
I was the first person to suggest shorter. I'm in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty comfortable with and that makes sense too, what you're saying, I know, about the larger leap or hi Helen.
Thank you. Hi.
We're just talking about strategic planning right now, and
Great.
and if we wanted to do a smaller, just a 2-year shorter term strategic plan, just as we're all reeling from the pandemic and potentially facing more of it, and just where our energy is, and the summation is that if we do kind of a smaller 2-year strategic plan, Amanda feels like herself and city staff should be able to handle that kind of reach.
In contacting and getting public input,
Yeah,
well, you have some very good connections.
yeah.
Yeah, the squeeze, I've read that. And so that I know you have contacts, and they will give you more contacts.
Well,
Am I in your seat?
Heck no.
and then also, if we did something longer term, say as a minimum of 3 years, there's a significant cost for a consultant to do that kind of deeper dive. So kind of divvying up responsibilities would have been around $9,000 or $8,000. And then having the consultant do everything was more around $19,000. So, which, is a pretty steep price for the size of organization we are. I think that's about the cost that the county is maybe 25, somewhere in there for that strategic planning, and that's a substantially larger, but.
I think it cost, the one that was done before, I'm sorry, I can't remember our former librarian's name.
Oh, Steve,
Not Steve, but before then.
Linda.
Linda, when Linda did it, I think it was $5,000, and when Steve did it, I'm not quite sure what, but it had up probably doubled.
Yeah,
So,
and you do feel comfortable with the 2-year?
I feel good with a
Lower.
2-year plan, working with city staff. And if I change my feeling about that, I'm confident this person could work with us on a sort of ad hoc basis, and I could come back and talk to you about that
Yeah,
again.
little snipes.
No.
Michael, how do you feel about the strategic planning, kind of shorter term, 2-year?
Yeah, I mean, that did strike me as reasonable and, yeah.
What would the years be? How are you? This is the planning year and then it would be the 2 following years, so it would be until
Yeah, this is the plan to
2024.
plan. To plan.
Okay, plan the sequence of times.
Yeah.
So that sounds great.
Great, yeah. That's my report.
Okay. And we skipped the ALS report, sorry, we were
That's okay. I
trucking right
didn't,
along.
I didn't have very much, but if you want me to say what I had.
Yeah, yes,
Like
please.
1 sentence or so. And if you don't mind, I'd like to stay longer today, if I may. I just checked on the bills today, and there hasn't been any major action on it. I have a little note to, well, I'll just simply say that there have been some increases in what they call the authors. And so in that regard, there's been a stretching out to other people in both the House and the Senate, and there must be some interest because they've agreed to be, to co-author
Yeah.
the bills. I haven't heard anything from ALS about their particular meeting with Bob. That I know they were going to be doing that later, and that didn't fit into my schedule or Amanda's schedule. But I think that's basically what I can say. It isn't dead.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I visited with them, I had a chance to do a soft inquiry, and I mean, they're very supportive of libraries and the library
Right.
system, and they didn't give a specific comment, but I gave my little plug about how I appreciate the support of the library system and how important it is. So. Okay, well, that's that for your report.
That's
Thank-
it.
Thank you. Let's see. That brings us on to communications. We have the memo of our annual report. And we need to approve that, so that's under new business. And then we have the strategic work plan, which we can talk about more. And then, of course, the 2 foundation statements. So unfinished business is clear, and we can move on down to new business, starting with that annual report. Very difficult for me to wrap my head around the report, considering all that we've gone through last year and some of the new, I mean, there was a number of new reporting line items, I felt like. There was something that I had a question, I should probably pull it up to be specific, but there were negative numbers in some
Yeah.
lines, and I don't know if you can talk about that, or if you want to summarize the report at all.
Yep, so a few notes from our report that I thought was pretty interesting was that the population of our service area is a little bit lower, as are the number of registered users that are either from the community or from greater Minnesota. Not very much, but just a little bit. Our visits in 2020, we had about 9,084 in-person indoor building visits. And last year we had 29,027, so that was fantastic. We had about 3,982 reference transactions, or times that we helped people find material that they really wanted. And this last year we had 9,138. I just like looking at that number of, in 2020 we did 12,741 contactless visits. That was exciting. And our public internet computer sessions have doubled from the year prior as well. Negative numbers are created when we have something called no data available, and it just creates that negative number 1.
Mm-hmm.
One of the negative number 1s appears at P32 website visits, and I just saw this in this room. It doesn't look that way on my screen, so I'd like to have permission to change that figure. The number for our website visits is actually significantly less than the prior year. This happened because we were serviced by, I just almost said it wrong, 2 dogs in the web, and then we had to transfer our website to a new hosting server. And when we did that, the software that was used to track how many web visits changed, and it doesn't count the same way that the last person's software counted. So there's going to be a discrepancy, but it will also be more consistent in the future. And also the consistency will match the recommendations of the state, which is to use Google Analytics. So I think it's a good change, even though it appears that we have less traffic. There's another negative 1, and I believe it's at like P69 or something like
Yes.
this. This is a brand new category that has been created. And P69, where are we?
Second page, or page 4.
Thank you. Yeah, there it is. Okay. This one is a little bit confusing. So, libraries across the country are circulating very interesting things. Our library, for example, is circulating something called a halo, which can like jumpstart your car or do a floodlight or recharge your device if you want to use the internet while you're sitting on the lawn. We also have happy lights and things like this, state park passes. Because of that, the state is adding a brand new category called physical circulation, not print or audio visual. But this is distinguishing from, let's see, the physical circulation of materials that are not, I'm trying to think of how this works. Because P15 and P69 will end up being very similar.
Like the games, for instance, or?
Games, see, I feel like games is going to be P69, and physical circulation, I can't remember. I will give you the data elements by email, though. So what happens here is they've created a new category, and that's great. Everybody who's able to provide the data can go ahead and do that. Anyone who's not able will get the chance to next year because it's going to persist. For us, ALS does not have us set up so that our materials are separated into these 2 categories. And what they wanted me to know in particular was that even though our number this year will show -1, which means we don't have data available to report, all the number of items are reflected in P15. So this year, our task will be to figure out how to distinguish the 2 data elements, and they'll still add up to about the same number next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions?
I would like to know, would you like for ALS to do something different, or are they introducing something that is just going to change the practice from what it has been?
We'll need to work with them on a local level to get collection codes that match our criteria, whatever we're going to decide to categorize to fit these categories, I think. And Chris is on it.
I think I will probably talk to you about this again, so I can get it clear, because I don't have what you're reading from.
Sure.
And that's fine.
Yeah. Great.
Any other questions from anyone?
On page 9, Board Foundation Friends, says, does this library have a foundation? Answer is no, but we have foundation reports coming up. So
Foundation.
just to clarify, because in our business, we're looking at the fund statements from foundation, so.
Oh,
This is whether. I see I made a mistake because I didn't bring the data elements with me. It's a very specific thing that the library has to have created.
And they have their own board. When you have a foundation.
foundation has its own-
It in and of itself has a board.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think you're right.
So the
So
money
we
that
have
is invested in
endowments.
the foundation is controlled by our board? Or controlled by,
yes, the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation funds
Yep.
that are listed, and also the St. Paul, Minnesota Community Foundation. We can decide what happens with
Okay.
that. But, there's a bunch of restrictions and,
Yep.
I don't know, criteria for that, so. Good catch and question there. Any other questions? Well, then, I think we need a motion to accept and submit the annual report.
so move?
Thank you, Enno. Is there support? Thank you, Councilor Gary. Motion and support. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Very good. Thank you, Amanda.
Yep.
Now we can move on to the strategic planning work plan.
Unless you guys have a different desire or specific questions, I would just go through this like line by line and walk us through.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Goal 1 is that the community will increase understanding and appreciation of the full range of human diversity. And we have 3 different goals here, or things that we're going to try to accomplish this year. One is promoting National Day of Racial Healing and the National Watch Party conversation, which has already occurred. It's done. We plan to host 3 to 4 programs that educate and celebrate cultural heritage. And we actually have 4 events already in progress or scheduled for June. Revise collection management policy to reflect our mission and diversity, equity, inclusion values using feedback from Deborah Caldwell Stone in 2021. So the trainings we had with Deborah, we're going to circle back around, use what we can from the content she gave us and give ourselves a try, give this a try and see how it works for us. And that will include all of you folks. Any questions about this goal? Okay. Goal 2 is that the community will have increased knowledge and utilization of library resources and programs throughout the county. This is where I'm placing, implementing the strategic plan for a 2-year plan. Digital inclusion. So in 2021, we received an ARPA sub-grant through the Arrowhead Library System. And our sub-grant was spent on 3 different items. One of them was a Google Chrome laptop. And what we want to do is make this available to people who are trying to web conference in the library's meeting room. So it'd be available for checkout inside the library, and I just want to make sure that gets implemented. We are We have update signage in the adult fiction and nonfiction collection areas to accommodate responsive collection with relevant wayfinding signs. This is a carryover from last year's plan. We've done the work of dealing with the collection itself, shifting it and moving it around, and we have to actually deal with the signs. So to back up a little bit and explain what this is about, there was a trend in libraries where you would create signage that exactly matched the collection parameters for one set of shelves. The idea here was to manage growth because there's been a movement away from perceiving libraries as a catch-all warehouse for as many books as you can possibly stuff in floor to ceiling. So this is when we started seeing in libraries that the shelving was dropped and lowered down, and the shelves are filled with books only to about 3/4 of the way. And this is happening too because there was research done that showed that the collections were more used when they could be experienced in this way. They were less overwhelming to people. So as that started to happen, then libraries would box in their collections and just intend to always weed really hard in that area to get rid of any excess. What actually happens in practice is that a certain topic or author becomes very popular, but you can't shift the collection around, and so you will find in the library one particular area where it's just stuffed with books end to end anyway, and then other areas that are almost empty because the subject is just not of interest anymore. So the whole concept here with updating the signage is to make it more flexible. The signage company that worked with us for what we have in the library currently has relocated to Detroit and no longer makes the signs that we have. And we also figured out that we can't take the signs off without damaging the wood behind them. So these challenges have slowed our progress. I'll probably need to work with someone well, I have a few names of local people. I think Warheidi is one of them. If I can get them and if they can work with our materials, that would be ideal. If I can't, then I'm probably looking more towards Duluth of trying to get what we need. Any questions about that one?
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Who else is a sign maker?
Steckelberg
That's right.
and
Dave
Warheidi.
Dave Steckelberg.
Dave Steckelberg,
Yeah.
Dave Warheidi, and maybe Paul Nordland?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Not sure if he's still doing it.
Okay, yeah, he was.
Okay. And then another thing we want to do to help the community know what we have to offer and be able to access library resources is to promote the Tofty Book Drop. So we have a box down at Grand Marais State Bank in Tofty that people can use to return materials fines free. We're of course fines free for sure, but some of the libraries that we trade materials with are not. So there's no impact to the customer if they want to return down there. And I've been talking about that in WTIP, and I think it will come out in the city weekly updates, and we'll just keep letting people know that it's there.
How does that work logistically?
It used to work by having a very generous volunteer who would stop by and then bring up the books as he came to the library. Right now, Kristen's actually collecting the materials for us.
And that works?
It does right now.
Yeah. I was just curious about the frequency there, and maybe that's not important. But are there other opportunities to do that, say like in Hoveland too, or elsewhere, or is it kind of potentially logistically difficult?
That is a great question. We've found there are these book lockers that are really popular right now. They're lockers, but what you can do is park them somewhere, and then people can use their library card to get their materials out. We've been curious about having the lockers like outside the library for people to pick up materials if they know they're gonna be at the library after hours, or having them at various places up and down the trail.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that work, Linda? Excuse me, Linda talked about it, that's where my brain had Linda, but having the lockers outside that, to be able to pick them up. Have you seen that work in any library? Have you known of any, or?
Seen them work outside?
Uh-huh, where someone could have, well, maybe some of you've dropped your computer off at Jeremy's. And I think it would, the way I understand it, would work something like that. It would be that you would lock it in, but you would also have, like you said, your library card that, or something that would be a key that you could get into it. But I've not seen anything, and I've never read anything about how that works, or if it works, or anyone thinks about whether it's a good idea.
It sounds like the Amazon pickup and Cub stores in the Twin Cities, and those aren't outside, but they are in a cold entryway.
Okay, so
It's
that
really
would-
easy. But you, yeah.
And I think that would be ideal, is something in a cold entryway. So, I mean, if I can think of the ware that's been on our outdoor drop box.
Mm.
I'm thinking that Hoyt Lakes has purchased and is using them. I'm not sure if they're in an entryway, if they're totally exposed though.
Boy, that could be such a great resource for Grand Portage or Hoveland, or like you said, up the trail, or on the west end. That's really exciting. Maybe we can.
We're all voting for the city to get in line for electrical vehicles so that we can do bookmobile locally. Like drive up the trail and put things in people's locker.
Yeah. Well, maybe I think it's great to have this on the current plan, and then maybe we can expand that on our upcoming strategic plan.
Goal 3 is that people will enjoy a comfortable environment that gives them a sense of community belonging. We installed the hydration station, we retro-commissioned the library's heating system, and we launched an adult winter reading program so that all ages can participate. Adults are clear, they want to read for tacos next year.
I saw a meme, a similar concept where just somebody being critical about the state of our country, and that we really need to implement the read books for pizza for adults. That's
I loved the book program.
but tacos, I won't argue with that. That's
Nope.
No.
Also, we aimed to continue the book bundle services that supply kits of staff-selected content to patrons, and that's been going on with the winter reading and ongoing with the kids. We've just done it. Erica's been doing it since she started the program. So that leaves a few other things here. We would upgrade the public access Wi-Fi printer to improve its printing capacity and make it more accessible to a large variety of devices. So the machine that we have right now is pretty outdated. It also does not handle PDF files. It has some sort of low memory error code that happens. It also is incompatible with many devices, especially older ones, but I think we can do better. The grant, the ARPA sub-grant, paid for a machine. I purchased it almost 6 months ago from the Metro Sales that sold us our photocopy machine. And the price includes full installation, but it has a microchip inside of it that's like part of the supply chain issue.
of course.
Yeah. I need to deal with the masonry on the rotunda of the building, and I think that'll be coming up here pretty quickly. The poetry walk is, I have a full plan in place for when the poetry sidewalk is installed, that we can do a ribbon cutting ceremony with the public and the poets and the many people who were a part of the art the art committee that reviewed all of the work and determined the parameters and everything like that. The actual installation, Mike Roth from the city is handling that. So as soon as he knows, I'll know, we'll throw a big party.
Great. That, I think, started, fully developed before my time. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And then the community is super excited about Film Festival. We were a hair's breadth away from doing it this year, and then the COVID cases started increasing with Thanksgiving, so it got canceled. But I think it's time, and we're excited to do it. So it would actually be the planning for, and then in January is when the program actually starts. Goal 4 is that young children will develop a love of reading and improve their literacy. We have goals to continue to develop, promote, and implement the Reading Ready program to support early literacy skills and lifelong love of reading in children ages 0 to 6. This is the program. This program it includes a grant from the Friends, and it concludes the spending of our sub-grant from ARPA. So I think we have about $3,000 allocated to making sure that we have the materials we need. Erica's purchasing T-shirts for the kids as they start completing. We have book prizes that they'll be getting along the way now, in addition to patches. And I think there's a midway milestone where you get a book and a plushie.
Awesome.
And so I don't know if you know, every child that gets signed up for Reading Ready, they get their own tote bag. And then as they complete their milestones, they get to choose a patch of their choice, and it gets sewn onto the bag.
It's fun.
For ages 7 and up, Erica created the wordplay cart. This is the grant that Jan just talked about at our last meeting. That the cart is like loaded with literacy building skills, games, activities, books. Mad Libs are on there. I'm a fan of those. And that is on the horizon. We have our cart, we have some of the materials, and now we're going to get all the rest of the goodies. Sawtooth Mountain Clinic Community Hub Grant Committee Team Executor people contacted us last year to talk about how we're serving ages 0 to 3 primarily, but youngins and their families. And from that conversation, we saw an opportunity to lead people to these two resources. One is called Help Me Connect, and one is called Bridge to Benefits. So we want to promote, advocate, let people know that they're there, maybe have them on our website. We've spent about 3 months trying to get a hold of the video for Help Me Connect or the coordinator for Bridge to Benefits. It's been really challenging, but we're going to keep trying because I think it would be a good resource to add to our collection. And the pickup truck opera with the Library Friends of Cook County is scheduled for August. And the really big thing that I think needs to happen with early literacy is that over the last several years, we've added and added and added programming. We started out with legacy programs, winter reading program, and summer reading program. We now have ongoing programs like Wondrous Reader Society and story times that come and go given the season. We have additional programming, outreach, visits to daycares, visits to schools, and we have also these programs I was just talking about, Reading Ready, the wordplay cart, and trying to partner with other organizations. So it's too much to sustain for much longer if we don't figure out a plan to stabilize those programs and make sure that we're choosing the ones that are most valuable. So this is going to be a time for us to rebalance our regular programs, and I don't want to wear out Erica. Because she'll do it. She'll go there. Yeah, that's what I'm proposing we work on in 2022.
Sounds fantastic. Any questions or comments from
It
the
all
board?
looks good.
That's great.
Okay.
Sounds balanced.
I'm particularly excited for the programs that educate and celebrate cultural heritage, considering that they're all in June. I'm curious if there'll be more throughout the year. I assume you're always looking for opportunities, but
They just stacked up that
Yeah.
way very quickly. The Afuti and Taiko arts were scheduled at different times, and they just kind of got moved a little bit around. And then Pride and Juneteenth or June, they just
Yeah.
are.
Yep.
So we'll keep our eyes open for sure.
Yep.
I think too that the June timeline is, with the legacy program, libraries are still hedging when is the right time to do the in-person programs, especially if we're scheduling talent. And I think that summer timeline is working really well for performers as well as libraries. And the option of potentially performing outside is desirable, you know. So I do hope to spread them out a little bit, but
Well,
that's the constraint
I
that I
think-
think everybody's dealing with.
yeah, summer solstice can be hit or miss for outdoor performances. I'd
Right.
say, so. But
Can be
we'll
very
keep our
chilly.
fingers crossed here. No, that's great.
Okay.
Okey dokey. Well, that, that brings us down to, our, just scheduling our next meeting, or making note of it, Thursday, April 28th. Unless there's anything else anyone would like to talk about?
I'll be on vacation on the 28th, so I'll not be attending.
Okay,
Give my notice now.
I'll forget, but thank you.
Yep.
I won't.
You won't forget, or you won't be on vacation?
No, I won't forget.
You'll be celebrating. Pastor's gone.
No, I have to pay people. Supply people.
Yeah. Okay,
All right.
well then, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Nice and speedy.